Welcome to Jets Rewind. I'm Marty Schupak in Valley Cottage, New York. I'm joined by my two very close friends, Ray Clifford in Marysville, Ohio, Ralph Schrager up in Belmont, Massachusetts. Ray, how are you doing?
Great. Just gearing up for another exciting Jets draft. But
All right. And
Ray,
Ralph,
what's the weather like there? Because we always get your weather
I
about a
know.
day later.
so do we.
Well, it rained all last night. It's going to
Yeah.
rain off and on for
Thanks for nothing.
days. And well, the thing that got me was I always look a few days ahead, and I think on Tuesday the high's supposed to be like 38 here.
Unbelievable. It's over 70 right now here. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I know.
about that now. Yeah. And Ralph, how are you doing up there?
Great, Marty. I'm drinking my lemon lime pre-draft Jets Kool-Aid right now. Pre-gaming. Already we're going to have the best draft ever.
Right. All right. We're going to do a three-round mock draft, but Ralph wrote out a great agenda. I'd like to, if you guys don't mind, attack two of those questions first,
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
and then we'll come back to it. Um, Ralph proposed a trade we spoke about. Michael Mayer, the tight end or the backup tight end or the second tight end for Las Vegas, since they drafted last year. What's his name again, Ray? The
Brock Bowers.
Brock Bowers, yeah.
Yeah.
And the trade is this: would we give up a fifth round pick for Michael Mayer, the tight end? Ralph, you start.
Absolutely. I do that in a New York minute. Yeah.
Okay, so would I. How about you, Ray?
Oh yeah, I'd be all for that.
I would too. I really liked Michael Mayer coming out of Notre Dame. I thought he would have been more productive as far as his receiving stats. He wasn't, but I think we all agree that a tight end is some sort of priority, especially Justin Fields at quarterback, the way he moves. And if they put a spy on him, it opens up the seam. The tight end should do well. Ralph, the reason I wanted to start with that because something came up, it was all over the internet that there was a proposed trade involving another tight end. It was the Jets flipping picks with the Falcons, number 7 for number 15,
Mhm.
and we get Kyle Pitts,
Whoa.
which I find fascinating. I know what I would do, but Ralph, let's start with you there. What would you do?
You know what? What has Kyle Pitts been doing lately? I kind of lost track of him.
Well, I'll get his numbers.
Yeah.
I know his rookie year, um, he did have over 1,000 yards. Okay. But I know since that it's been going down. And Ray, he was giving that adjective that he was a generational player, if you
Yeah.
remember, which I can't stand. So let's see. All right, here we go. Brock Bowers, 2021.
Brock Bowers. No,
Oh,
not
sorry,
Brock.
Kyle Pitts. That guy's on my mind. 2021, 68 receptions, 1,026, one TD. 2022, obviously he was hurt. 28 receptions, 356 yards, two TDs. 2023, 53 receptions, 667 yards, three TDs. And last year, 47 receptions, 602 yards, four TDs. Offhand, Ralph, do you remember Tyler Conklin's, what his stats were?
Well, not for, touchdowns aside, because Conklin didn't get many. Of course, the Jets didn't score many, but the other numbers were not that far off from Kyle Pitts's numbers. Um, I know Pitts had Desmond Ritter for a couple of years, so you can't expect too much there. But last year, um, he could have
By the
caught
way,
more.
Ray, Conklin had 51 receptions last year and 61 the year before.
Yeah, so it's pretty equivalent. You know what, Marty? If that trade is that's a second round pick, basically, uh, going from 7 to 15. I think that's too much for what he's done. I'd want something back.
How about you, Ray? Kyle,
Uh, I would prefer we stay there than move back for a tight end. I'd rather either draft one, not necessarily Tyler Warren. I'd rather draft one, or if we can trade for Michael Myers, I'd prefer that one.
Well, I would make that trade just because, and I know, I don't want to use again generational talent, but I still think he has some more upside. But I would have liked to see a little kicker thrown in for the Jets, like a fourth or fifth round
Well,
pick.
that's what I would say a fourth at minimum. Yeah, I would want
Right.
a fourth.
Yep.
I
You
hate
know,
these proposed trade
yeah, I know.
articles.
You
I
know, to
never
be
believe.
honest with you, Marty, you think there's more upside, but it's been like 4 or 5 years, so
It has.
I'm not feeling it with him. I'd probably want a third back, believe it or
But
not.
but but let me ask you this: we all looked on the draft board, and besides the Travis Hunters of the world and the defensive end from Penn State, is there a huge difference in talent from 7 to 15, Ray?
For anyone, or are we talking just
General, did you see a because I personally I didn't see such a huge difference in talent from 7 to 15.
I don't see a huge difference in talent, but the elite left tackles or tackles are going to be gone. You
yeah.
probably can get one at 7, but not at 15, and I'm assuming that's going to be the Jets' priority.
I
Uh,
think that I think the difference is that how they're ranked by these guys like McShay and Daniel Jeremiah and all the guys. People pay so much attention to that they think the very top of the list is the best of the best. And we all know drafts are a crapshoot, and a lot of guys are elite and they aren't drafted in the first round, even much less.
sure, absolutely.
Right,
So
right. Yeah,
I don't think there's a big difference because you just don't know for sure what you're getting until you get them on the field and get them in your facility.
right. All right, fair enough, and we'll get into more.
Well, Marty, the rest of that question
Yeah,
is
there was
because we
more.
all we all want Meyer for Mayor for a fifth. Would you take him for a fourth?
Great question. I think I would, because he's still like he would be in the third year of his rookie contract out of four
Yeah.
years, and I think it's a worth a gamble for a fourth round.
I would too. I think you could probably extract a sixth or a seventh from him for that, though. I
Right.
would think, yeah.
How about you, Ray, for a fourth?
Yep, I'm all for either of those.
I
Would
mean,
be
that
fun.
would think about it because, we'll go into the Jets' major needs, and that's certainly one of their three biggest needs, and that would be off the board, and we'd still have our top three picks. So that to me would really be worth it.
It's funny. I was going to get into it, and maybe that's because I keep repeating Brock Bowers' name. Tight end is the one position besides Brock Bowers that there's so much hype and the players never live up to the height of tight ends. Think about it. Remember the guy from Alabama? His name was Howard. What was his name a number of years
Oh
ago?
yeah, there's a whole list of them. A guy from North Carolina, who Ebron, who were the Jet when that was the year the Jets picked Jay Samaro. These
Yeah,
guys are supposed to be phenomenal athletes, and no, it's true. Some there's a bust rate for them, like everything else. That's why I'm always hesitant about taking them because they're not high priced players, and I like to use those top picks on the priciest
right,
positions.
right,
Yeah,
To me, if you're spending your top pick on a tight end, then you should be pretty well set everywhere else.
yeah, yeah.
Like using it on the tight end, our top pick ever.
right.
Uh,
I agree. We're going to get into that because up till 2 weeks ago, everybody, or not everybody, but there were a lot of mocks having the Jets take Tyler Warren, which we'll talk about, because he's one of the best athletes out there, and he's coming in with a lot of hype too.
Uh-oh, is the word generational going to pop up?
That's it.
No, no, thank you. I'm not
Now,
taking a Penn State tight end in the first round,
that's
thanks, but
right.
no thanks.
The deal
that's
is, Ralph, who says it first? Either who's going to say either generational tight end or Zach Wilson's name first? That's what we have to consider. Go ahead, Ray. What were you going to say?
No, I don't want to, if they're going to take him in the first round, it better be because they traded back and got him later. And I don't think he'll be around later, but I don't really like the idea of spending a high draft pick when we have other needs.
Okay.
Tight end is the answer.
All right, Ray, one more question, theoretical or Jackson Dart has been moving up, and actually Mel Kiper has the Saints taking him with the ninth pick, which could be a little rich. But if
Wow.
Jackson Dart, Ray, is available in the second round, if you're the Jets, would you take him with that pick?
No. Um, it's we just brought in Justin Fields. We have uh, Jordan Travis or Travis Jordan. I always get it one right or wrong. I never know which one it is. But we haven't figured out if he's got anything we want. We have other needs. It's kind of like the tight end thing. We have other needs. I don't see using a second round pick on a quarterback at this point. I don't think he'll be there anyway, but I wouldn't want them to pass up on something we need if something is available, especially like a D lineman or a tackle or if we decide on a wide receiver, then I'd rather have them take something I think we need, a DB.
Right. How about you, Ralph?
I definitely would not either. Think about it. If you're a betting man, 2 years down the line from now, who do you think, if you would have to bet, who do you think would be a better quarterback, Justin Fields or Jackson Dart in the NFL? I mean, quarterbacks are so tough to evaluate. There's probably a 50% chance he's not going to be any good. And, 2 years down the line, he might just be learning. Fields is young. I think Jet fans say, "Oh, that he's a bridge." No, I think the Jets think they can develop him, and if they can't, they can't. But at his age, it's like working with a young quarterback, and I think he's the guy you want to focus on now. And you bring in a guy like Dart, if they were to trade up the late first round, and the minute Fields has some crappy games, people start shouting for this guy. It's not good. Marty, you know what Parcells used to say about quarterbacks. If you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. So
Right.
yeah, I think we want to stay away from quarterbacks this year.
Ralph, I think you're right, and I don't want to forget about my guy Adrian Martinez. Still on the roster. I still have some hopes
Yeah.
this quarterback, but we're going to get into the mock draft. But before we do, I just got to do a shout out to Edwin from Pro Blind Cleaners. He's up in northern New Jersey. He came and guys, we painted the house. Edwin took all the blinds down. He washed them, had it back like in 24 hours. So he's a huge Jet fan, and that's why I'm doing the shout out. All right, so let's go to the draft. And who wants to start? Ralph, you want to start?
Okay, I'll start. So yeah, for the Jets' first pick, I'm hoping that the right tackle from Missouri is there, Membao or Membu.
Mambo.
I Yeah, Membo. The Patriots are definitely taking a tackle. There's no question about it. They don't have a right or a left tackle, and there's been a lot of talk up here. And I think they're leaning towards Campbell because he is a left tackle, and we don't know if Membu can play left. But the Jets are in a nice position because they're looking for a right tackle. So I think he'll be there. I hope he'll be there, and that would be my pick. And to add, if he's not there, I think I'd take McMillan, the wide receiver.
Let me just go next, Ray, because that's who I had too. Armand Mambo, who he looks like a complete player, and his favorite play apparently are screen passes. He loves screen passes just to roll over people.
Yeah, pancakes. Yeah.
Right. But I did a kind of a what if. So I'll be honest with you, if with the seventh pick, and I'll ask Ralph what he would do, then we'll get to Ray's pick. Ralph, what would you do if on the seventh pick, Mason Graham is still sitting there, the defensive tackle for Michigan, and so is Mambo?
I would go with Membo.
Okay. I
I
probably I would go with Graham. I really
Yeah, I just feel like there's so many interior defensive linemen I see, and I don't know. I feel like it'd be easier to fill that position than an elite tackle.
right. All right. How about you, Ray? What's your pick in the first round for the Jets?
Well, I'm kind of with you guys, but I was kind of trying to decide. I wonder if Campbell was going to be available or not. I kind of like Campbell. The thing, and it's not even a valid reason for not wanting Membu, but when I look at him, all I see is Vlad Dukas. I was just like, it's totally unreal, expectation there.
100% legitimate, Ray. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I'm looking at him going, oh God. I mean, so, but they said Membu could slide inside the guard as well. He's, quite athletic. They also, they had a lot of good things to say about Campbell. He's projected as a left tackle though, right?
He
Is
is a
that
left tackle. The big thing with him is they think his arms are a little
Dog.
short.
a little
So
short, which I think is,
yeah, I know. The guy's been going up against basically guys who are going to be pros
yeah.
for 3 years, so
It's
they
kind of
should.
like the size of the hands of a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose if it's super extreme, where we're talking about a half inch or something like that. I mean,
Yeah, I didn't get the feeling it was like alligator arms or anything, so
no.
I'm not really worried about that. But I don't know that he'd do the switch to right tackle if that's what they wanted to do, though.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That could be a transition.
So I guess I would go with Membu as well, just because of that. But I would be okay with either. Or, and if Graham falls and they want to go with him, I think he'd be hard to pass just because how everybody's,
Now they
right.
talk about him having short arms too.
Interesting. I've seen every mock draft. I've seen Jacksonville, except for one, taking Graham.
Yeah.
The one they were taking Mambo, which shocked me because I thought their offensive line was pretty well set.
You know, these mock drafts get locked into teams taking certain players, and then they always do different things.
Yeah.
They get some of them right and some of them wrong. The question is, we don't know which they're going to get wrong. So,
Right, right. Okay,
right, wrong.
well, that's the first round. We all agree on Armand Mambo. And when you hear his name and you think maybe he was born in Nigeria or something, but actually I think he was born in Missouri. I think he's
His
a
Uh,
parents have probably been here a while.
yeah.
yeah, hometown guy. We're gonna do the second round. Let's go into one more question. We'll flip-flop, Ralph. Is there any player you trade up for a few spots in the first round?
No, I feel like every year, these guys, they're always making these pronouncements about he's the best, these are the best two athletes in the class and blah blah blah. And I guarantee you, if you go back and look after the fact, they get it wrong as much as they get it right with that. So no, I think I don't think there's anyone that you'd say you like Graham. I wouldn't trade up for Graham. I wouldn't trade up for Hunter. I think Hunter is a strange case. He's kind of tricky because what made him so special was the fact that he can play both ways, and I don't see that happening totally in the pros. And someone made an interesting comment about Hunter. They said if he actually was playing both defense and offense, if he got hurt, you'd suddenly have to find two replacements for him instead of one.
Right, that's right. How about you, Ray? Is there anyone you would trade up for?
No, I think if they did, it would be for Graham, but I said no. I'd rather add picks and trade back than to give whatever up
Right.
we're going to trade up. So we need more bodies and we need important ones, and trading up would waste a lot of valuable, opportunities to fill spots.
I agree. I agree. I want to ask a question not on the agenda, and I want to start with Ray. With the Jets picking seventh, if you could look at the order and pick one team that might change the whole characteristic of the draft, what team would it be? I think it's pretty obvious. Ray, do you have any idea? If one team
Um,
made a certain pick,
of any of the teams in the first round, or are we talking
before
about?
the Jets, 1 to
Oh,
6.
before the Jets.
Yeah. You
Uh,
say if they make a certain pick, how should let me say it this way. Everything I think is on this team's shoulders to determine what happens after.
Uh-huh. Cleveland?
No,
the Giants.
I think it's the Giants. I think they hold the cards whether they're going to pick Sanders or not.
Yeah.
And
What are they picking third?
third, yeah.
Third.
So, that's the talk around here. It changes every day. One day they are going to pick.
Yeah, Sanders, my God. There are three things in life that are certain: death, taxes, and the NFL overdrafting quarterbacks. And I guess I can't put it past them, but man, it's just every year with this, it's just
It
ridiculous.
is. It is. So you're not very high on Shador Sanders, right?
I, you know, I don't think any of those quarterbacks are probably some of the top five players in the draft. Once in a while, the quarterback is one of the top two or three players, but most years they're not. It's just a position.
Right. Absolutely right. Okay, let's go to round two. Ray, you want to start with round two?
Sure. I was going based on what I think our another of our needs is, and I went with because we're picking at 42, so we're down there a ways. I said Trey Amos, a cornerback out of Ole Miss. He's been on a few colleges. What I read about him, he's according to reading, he's a bit of a ball hawk. He's not necessarily the fastest guy, but he seems to be more technically sound and a more of a steady player. So I just thought, we
Interesting pick.
lost to Detroit. We lost I can't think of his name now.
Reed, DJ Reed.
Reed. We lost Reed, and I think we do need somebody to complement Sauce on the other side. And
Well,
I
we
don't.
got Brandon Stevens. He's going to be the starter.
Come on, Ralph. This is such a crapshoot. Talk about quarterbacks are a crapshoot. This,
Well, yeah, you can. I mean, you can never have enough cornerbacks. It's true.
yeah.
He's from Mississippi, right? Right.
Yeah, Ole Miss is what he was on three schools. I can't remember
Oh,
the
I'll
first.
tell you, last year, Ole Miss, boy, they have a ton of players that are really highly rated.
A receiver, they got a great receiver
Yeah,
too.
Trey Harris. Yeah. So I went back and looked at their record. They lost three games last year, all really close. So they were, not far. I'm sure if Nick Saban or the young Urban Meyer, before he went nuts, was coaching that team last year, they would have been in the playoffs. I think Lane Kiffin probably didn't get it as much as he could have out of them.
Right. Okay, Ralph, you go next.
All right, this is against my instincts but I'm going to pick a tight end from Miami, Elijah Arroyo, who I like very much. And oh, did I pick your guy,
Oh
Marty?
no, but I like him a lot too. But
Yeah.
you don't think that's a little rich? Second.
He's going to be. He might not even be there at that spot, from what I heard. I think that's around. I think it's going to be anywhere 10 picks before or after that he'll be there. That'll be gone. Yeah.
Okay.
He did have a knee, but last year he played the full season, and he looks really good. I like him.
He's very good. He's a very, very good player. Okay, I'll tell you who I picked. I said if by any chance they are able to get Mambo in the first round, if he's there, I like this guy from Texas, Alfred Collins, a defensive lineman who's getting better and better every year. He played 5 years, he played 64 games. His tackles every year 22, 25, 17, 22, 55. The only negative, he turns 24 in his rookie year. He's projected like either a second or a third. The guy was a phenomenal athlete. But I'll tell you something interesting because I like to watch personal interviews with these guys. And I was watching an interview with him, and they asked him a good question. They said, "Who was the toughest player you played against in college?" So here's a name to keep your eye on. So he mentioned a guard. He played against Georgia twice. Tate Ratledge, who's a guard in Georgia, he said he couldn't get around the guy. The guy blocked him on every play.
Is he coming out this year,
He's
Routledge?
coming out this year, projected about the second round.
Oh, interesting.
I find that fascinating. He's
Yeah.
6'3", 320. Tate Ratledge played in like 38 games. So in the first round, if they were somehow to get Mason Graham, I might go for this Tate Ratledge, to be honest, on
Interesting.
offense. Though he played guard, but
Yeah, well, he'd probably end up bumping AVT out then, right?
could be, yeah. So I really like that. But I also want to mention, because Ray took the defensive back, and I'll ask the question in a second, because I wouldn't take this guy unless we traded down. But there's a guy on Texas, defensive back, called Jahdae Barron.
Hmm.
He's a heck of a player, cover guy. I'm so sick and tired of our defensive backs. I can't tell you how frustrated I was with this Sauce Gardner this year. And I'm telling you, if they don't extend him, I'm going to be happy. I don't care what any Jet fan thinks. I don't have a good feeling about him. I want a gosh darn shutdown corner. If we trade back, and we get to that question in a minute, we could pick up this guy and some other picks in the second round. I'm sorry, later in the first round. But another player to talk about defensive backs, Will Johnson. I think this guy might even be better than Will Johnson. I think he might even be a better tackler.
Uh-huh.
All right. So with that, I'll ask Ralph first. How far would you be willing to trade back in the first round?
Well, I go into the mid-teens. You can get a second round pick for that. Yeah, I'd be comfortable there. I think there's plenty of talent there. There always is.
13, 14, or 15, right?
Yeah, right around there.
All right. And but with that said, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, because we were talking about the Kyle Pitts, and you said that's like a second round pick.
Yeah, yeah.
How about you, Ray?
Was a little more lenient on that. I said I'd trade back anywhere 8 to 19, but I didn't want to go into the 20s.
Right.
So a few more picks back, but not many. But I'd be okay with them trading back a little bit and getting picks, but it depends on who's there when they're picking for me. Are you passing on somebody you're sure you need or will fit? Then don't trade. But if you're not sure on them and you get a good offer, take it.
If the Giants don't take Sanders, who are they supposed to be taking? What's the word?
Um,
Oh, I
hold
saw
on.
you had them taking Mason Graham.
I haven't heard Graham. I
I-
heard Hunter's name. I heard they're trying like crazy to trade up for Cam Ward, but the Titans don't want to do it.
Hmm.
So I heard
Yeah,
that.
I don't know.
Well, I think
I
it
think
is
the Titans-
definitely benefit the Jets if Sanders does not get picked and he's there when the Jets are up. He and Dart, maybe somebody wants to jump up and make a trade with them.
Right. Okay. Huh. Interesting. I agree about trading down, I think, with both of you, but I would like to do it differently. If you could trade down like from 7 to 9, get a pick, then go from like 9 to 12, get another pick. I would like to do it like that, not to go from 7 to 15, in one trade. All right, quickly, Ray. Here's a quick one. Tyler Warren, over under 10th pick.
Under.
Ralph, over under 10th pick. Tyler Warren, the gift, the generational talented tight end.
Yeah,
There it is.
that's a good number, Marty. You should be in Vegas setting odds. I would say probably under, and you know why? Probably because of what Brock Bowers did last year. Teams are gonna, which means nothing, of course,
Yeah,
as far
right.
as this.
Ralph, Ralph is Ray. Ralph is like the author of the NFL is a copycat league. You're
It's true.
100% right, Ralph.
Well, Marty, it happens all over. I remember in basketball when Charles Barkley and the guy on the Nets came up. Chuck Person got drafted from Auburn. Then a couple of years later, this guy Chris Morris, same position from Auburn. Oh, he's got to be. The other two were great, and of course he was terrible. That's that kind of.
I think the Nets drafted him, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I remember that. Interesting. Okay, we're going into round 3 now. But before we do that, let's Ralph's last question. List in order the 3 biggest areas of need for the Jets going into the draft. Ooh. Okay, let me go. I would say right tackle, defensive back, and I think it's like a tie between a defensive lineman and a tight end. I'm taking the easy way out.
Wow.
Go ahead, Ray.
I said defensive line because we got to stop the run. Defensive backfield, probably a DB, not a safety. But and then I said we need a unless we're keeping, and Lazard's not exactly a great filler, but draft a wide receiver is to get somebody with Wilson.
Okay, how about you, Ralph?
I'd say offensive tackle, wide receiver, and yeah, defensive interior line.
Okay, there you go. Ralph, you brought up last time, and you thought is one of the better under the radar signings, Andre Cisco, the safety.
Yeah.
You said he had an off year, but he's a pretty good. You have a feeling he's a pretty good center fielder.
He is a ball hawk. In
And you
college, I think he
feel
led the country in interceptions, and he's been doing it did it in the pros early in his career.
he
You
did.
know, guys who jump ropes that, you have to believe in yourself to do that. You can't half-ass it. You got to and he's one of those guys that does that. And guys like that get burned occasionally, but I want a guy like that. I love those kind of guys. And he can be dynamic, and I'm excited about him. I
Yeah.
hope, yeah.
Out of all the free agent signings, Ray, I agree with Ralph. I think that's the most exciting, especially when he gets to play by the legend Tony Adams, which we can't wait.
Yeah,
Any
he
thoughts, Ray,
learned from the Adams.
on Cisco, who's I believe is from Long Island? Andre,
Yeah, Valley Stream. He's born in the city, and then he moved out to Valley Stream. Yeah.
right? He went to Syracuse. So
So
yeah,
he's got all New York blood.
right. Ray, any thoughts on him, or just you like the pick, or what?
Oh, actually, no. I've been pretty happy with pretty much everything they've done as far as bringing guys in, and I would say that or Fields were the two favorite picks of mine. Free agents that they've signed for me.
Right.
Those filled some big needs. If Cisco pans out like it sounds, I think he could be really good too. And if he pans out, and if they can get Justin Fields to settle in, I think that's two huge
Right.
pickups.
I already see the first game. Cisco's going to miss a tackle, and Marty's going to be like apoplectic.
Well,
Get rid of him.
Bench him, right?
that's it. Ray, how about having Sauce Gardner make a tackle? That's what
Well,
we need from our secondary.
that about not extending him. I will say this much. Yeah, I won't make my judgment on that. Let's see if he bounces back from last year because I don't think he was 100% healthy. Yeah, he hasn't been tackling since we've had him hardly. So that part needs to improve no matter what. And maybe Aaron can get him to stick his nose in there a little bit more. But I don't think he was ever 100% healthy after about the first third of the season, quarter of the season. He got burned by guys who never should have burned him. So I'm going to hold my opinion off on whether that they should extend him until.
It's funny. I saw an interview with Aaron Glenn a couple of days ago, and one of the questions they asked him, they said, you had 41 picks when you were a pro. And are you going to be able to, how are you going to get Sauce Gardner to get some picks? Aaron Glenn said, there are things, there are ways, there are things I can, that I'll be able to tell him and teach him. But yeah, I mean, at a certain point, you got to make some plays. Yes.
Right. Ralph, I want to start with you on this one. I was very high on him, and then I don't know, I saw his 40 time wasn't that great on his pro day, but what's your feeling about the gifted wide receiver from Arizona, Ted McMillan?
I like him very much. I think, what was his time in the 4.5s?
I'm not sure, I think in the
Yeah.
4.5s, yeah.
That's for a wide receiver, that is fine. I always say to people, the two statistically greatest wide receivers of all time, Jerry Rice and Larry Fitzgerald, were in the 4.6s and 4.7s. I mean, football speed is just different for a wide receiver, and I think he's fine. There are plenty of wide receivers, so whether if they don't get him, they'll get another one. But I'm not worried about that.
Ralph,
You know,
if they could get a third round pick to trade back to 10 and he's there, is it worth it taking him at 10? Ted McMillan?
Yeah, definitely. I would. Oh, I'd do that. I'd love that. Yeah.
How about you, Ray?
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know enough about the guy, but I'll say this is like Ralph said about the time. That's my least favorite stat that I hear coming out of combines is the time. And I always say the same thing. They're in shorts and t-shirts. Put some pads on them, and put a
Have them carrying a football and have them
yeah.
changing directions,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've heard so much about guys, and my favorite example, and I love the guy, was Lavernius Coles. We were told blazing fast, and the first game I watched him play, he got caught from behind by a from the Bills, and I
Right.
was like, "Where's
Well,
the football
Yeah, he was
speed?"
like about a 4.3 or something like that.
It
Yeah.
was
the best
unbelievable.
example, Ray, you're 100% right. For all our old listeners, the great Gale Sayers was not the fastest player head on, straight ahead, but his change of
Yeah,
direction, his ability to start, stop
unbelievable.
was unbelievable. You
Yeah,
never saw anything like that guy.
yeah,
So
and
for
so
all you young Jet fans, you have to go to YouTube and just type in Gale Sayers highlights. You'll see what we say. Oh, go ahead, Ray. What are you going to say?
I just these numbers that come out of it, and they're all like, who was the fastest? I don't really, yeah, you see Xavier Worthy, you see, okay, that guy is really fast, no doubt. But it doesn't mean that, every one of those is a valid number when they're in pads on the field with a guy in their face coming off the line of scrimmage and all that. There's so much more to it than just how fast you can run a straight line for 40 yards.
Right. That's right. And Ralph, say it again. What was Jerry Rice's time in the 40?
He was either in the four or a 4.6s or a low 4.7, which is amazing.
Right. And was it the same for Emmett Smith, I believe?
Emmitt Smith was in the 4.5s, which
Okay.
for a running back today, they'd go, oh, maybe a fourth round pick. Emmitt Smith understood how to run. He understood when to accelerate, when to change directions. I mean, running is not track. It's a
Right.
whole different craft of being a running
Uh,
back.
all right. Let's go to round three now. We all agreed on the first round for Amon Mabu. And the second round, Ray took a quarterback from Old Miss. Who's it? Trey. What's his name, Ray?
Trey Amos,
Trey.
Trey Amos.
Ralph took. Who'd you take, Ralph, second round?
Elijah Muhammad. No, Elijah Arroyo,
Elijah Royal, the gifted tight end from
the
Miami.
Canes. Yeah.
And
The U
I took in the second round Alfred Collins, the defensive tackle from Texas, but I pointed out keep your eye on Tate Ratledge, a guard from Georgia. All right, I'll start with the third round. I listed three tight ends, and if Ralph is right, Arroyo won't be available in the third round because Ralph thinks he might have to be a late first round pick. But I listed besides Elijah Arroyo, Mason Taylor, LSU, and Harold Fannin Jr. from Bowling Green. I would
yeah.
take any one of those three if they're available at tight end. And again, this is contingent. We all would like to have Michael Mayer, but if we don't get him, I would do one of those. Ray, go ahead. Your third
Uh,
round.
who was I heard who was your three tight ends? I heard the two of them.
Elijah Arroyo from Miami, Mason
Oh,
Taylor, LSU,
gotcha.
Harold Fannin Jr. from Bowling Green.
Yeah, he's a
Okay.
nice
I could be
player.
mistaken, Ralph, but I think he put up some ridiculous numbers.
He's good. I watched a lot of film on him. Yeah, he's sort of a smaller tight end, 6'3", 240s. But you know what? Sam Laporta is like 6'3", 245.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no, he's good. He's an athlete. I was thinking if I didn't take Arroyo in the second round, I was going to pick Fannin in the third.
Right, right. And don't
Okay.
forget, we have Sam Laporte as coach now,
That's right. That's exactly why I point that out. Yeah.
which is good.
So yeah.
And he made Laporte into a better blocker. All
Mm.
right, Ralph, go ahead. You
Whoa, I didn't make a
oh,
pick.
Ray, go ahead, Ray. I'm sorry.
And this is just throwing mud against the wall. I wanted a defensive tackle, and I was trying to see who might be there. And I was reading up on this guy a little bit. He sounds like somebody, I don't think he's like going to be a sack specialist, but he might be a great run stuffer, which I think we need. And he's out of Toledo, Darius Alexander.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Good
he,
player. I don't know if he'll be there, but that's
I don't know. It's good. Yeah, they had him in that area where he may or may not be there, and I just want somebody who can kind of solidify that side of the line a little more. So I
right.
went with tackle as opposed to a tight end.
Okay, very good. Ralph, who would you want?
Okay, my third round pick, and this is going to be my third offensive player. I'm going to go with a wide receiver from TCU named Savion Williams. And this guy is fascinating. He's about 6'5", 225. And yeah, I saw some plays where he gets like a reverse and he starts running and he'll reverse field and he's got moves for a guy his size. I mean, really nimble. And the other thing you're going to love about him, Marty, his quarterback was horrible. He was so inaccurate. And this guy is making these catches, throwing behind. He's like making Garrett Wilson catches, twisting and using just hands. So I think I would love to get him in the third round.
How tall is he?
It's like 6'5".
If he's even if he's not legitimate, if he's 6'4", which is fine.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he caught 6 touchdowns and he ran for 6 touchdowns. So he's a multi-talented player. You know, he's got a lot. He brings a lot of athleticism.
Do you have his other stats or what do you?
No, not offhand.
What's his name?
Savion Williams,
How do you spell Savion?
Savion Williams. Yeah, check out his some highlights of him. He's quite interesting. And boy, his quarterback was inaccurate. It's like,
Oh, really? Yeah, that's it's always funny. Like they used to always say, going back, in the draft, always draft the backup center to Lou Alcindor. You
or Bill Walton, Swan Nader. Yeah.
yeah, which is really interesting. All right, Texas Christian. He's played 52 games. Last year he had 60 receptions, 6 TDs. You're right, he had a lousy quarterback. You could tell. And he had, wow, 322 yards rushing.
And 6 touchdowns rushing.
That's
Yeah.
impressive. 6 touchdowns, yeah.
I mean, I was just impressed with how nimble, like a 6'5" guy was. I was
Right.
really impressed. He's putting on moves, in
And
an open field.
And he doesn't look real skinny. He looks fairly lean,
Yeah, yeah,
which is good. But what I like too is if he had like Cam Williams, Cam Ward as quarterback, he might be a first or second round pick.
yeah, yeah.
So let's see. Let's hope we could do our homework there. Ralph. That's a good search. That's very good. All right.
What was did you, oh, you already picked the tight end,
one of the
Marty. That's
tight
right.
ends,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Now we'll go. Just so you guys know, and we're gonna pick a sleeper. But I wrote down because I agree. We need a wide receiver. We've been signing. It seems like all these free agent wide receivers are the same players to me. Nobody stands out to me.
No. And the elite ones are too expensive when they're 29, 30
Right.
years old. They're just not
But
worth it.
yeah, but I like that Sevian Williams and just a couple that I looked up. At first, I was big on him, but he doesn't look that fast to me. This Pat Bryant from Illinois, he's 6'3". He had a pretty good year, 984 yards, 18.2 yards per catch. I love that stat though.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I was looking at some highlights. He's not big, really fast. Another player, I like the way he uses his body. And Ray and Ralph, looking at these receivers, you always try to find the compliment to like Wilson, a guy that's tall.
Yeah.
Iowa State has a guy, Jaden Higgins.
Yeah, he'll be gone though. I think he's a second round pick.
Oh yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm just going over some receivers.
Right, yeah.
Second round, he probably got in the second round. He had like over 80 receptions, 9 TDs, 1,100 yards. I didn't even know who the quarterback for Iowa State was. But one other player I want to mention, he's a little like Julian Edelman. He's a player from Miami called Xavier Restrepo, R-E-S-T-R.
Restrepo, yeah.
And he's 5'10", and
Yeah.
the guy is a phenomenal route runner. I was watching tons of his film, and the reason why he gets open is because of his routes. So I really like this guy too.
Well, you know what happened to him? He had a really bad 40 time and so he's going to drop. So he could be available in the later round
Right,
because people were high on him. And then, of course, a 40 time for a slot receiver like him is really meaningless. It's all about quickness, and
right.
change of direction. Um,
He's a worker too, and I
yeah.
really like what I saw. All right, as far as a sleeper, Ralph, you want to start either a sleeper or fourth round
Well,
pick?
yeah, I'm gonna go with this guy from Mississippi, defensive lineman J.J. Pagoose.
I
This
think
guy
I
is
saw it
this
too.
guy is fascinating. You're gonna love this. He's about 6'2", 320, and he's got a motor, but they also play him on offense in the Wildcat. You have to watch this guy's film. I mean, a lot of plays, and he like has got nimble feet. And if you see that on offense, you got to figure he can translate on defense. So I think he's a very intriguing player. Uh,
How do you spell his last name?
Pegues.
Ralph, you know what's funny? You read about these huge offensive linemen like that, and then you go
He's a defensive
oh,
lineman.
defensive
Yeah.
lineman. It could be offensive, defensive,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
but you go into their bio and you see holds the state record for the 100-yard dash,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is funny. Well, that's a good one. Very good. Now, where are they projecting him? Undrafted free agent or
No, no. They're projecting him in as an early third day pick, like fourth round,
fourth
fifth
round?
round.
Okay, good one. Ray, how about you?
The more I read about the guy, I don't think he'll be there late rounds, but he wasn't like among the elites. He's a bit of a well, maybe he will be there. I take that back. Because I'm starting to look at where they think he'll go. I'm looking at this guy, Dante Thornton Jr., who is with Tennessee. He's 6'5", and I know I'm not big on the 40 yard, but they have him listed running a 4.3 40
What position?
wide receiver. And he was at Oregon before he went to
Hmm.
Tennessee. And so
Right.
he's been at some good place. And I'm just thinking he may not be a top, receiver, but he might be the guy who can loosen things up for Garrett Wilson and stretch the field, which I don't think we've had a true guy
Oh,
who stretches the field in a while.
Ray, I like that as a sleeper. I'll tell you why. I'm looking at his stats. He's not going to blow you away.
No.
His last year at Tennessee, listen to this, Ralph. 26 receptions, 6 TDs. His yards per reception was 25.4
Yeah, he
yards.
sounds like Richard Castor.
Wesley Walker, yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. I love those guys.
I want somebody to stretch the field so that our other guys have a little more room.
Right. But what's incredible too, even though he didn't put up a lot of receptions, his first year at Oregon, 19.4 yards per reception. Second year, 21.5. And his first year at Tennessee, 17.2. So who knows? Ralph, who's the quarterback the Patriots just traded to Dallas?
Joe Milton.
And
Yeah.
what was his last year in Tennessee?
Well, it would have been last year, 2023, but he was hurt, so he didn't
Okay,
play very little, if any. Yeah,
all right, so he didn't play with Thornton, so I
not
wonder
much. Yeah,
probably
no,
had a backup
yeah.
quarterback. Last year, I don't know who the quarterback was for Tennessee, but Ray, that's a very interesting pick. And when you
Yeah.
look at it, it's like tw
So how tall is he, Ray?
6'5".
Yes, he's Richard Castor.
but it's
He's
like
tall. He's only like 210 or 15 pounds, but
Yeah.
yeah.
so
Well,
he's a,
actually, he's light. He's very skinny. 100, they list him 185, but
Oh
he's
my
really
gosh.
yeah. But it's like 20 to 25% of his catches are touchdowns.
Yeah, he sounds like one of these guys who, yeah, he'll just
Which is
break one.
amazing, which is great. I love that too.
the
So
one I'm looking at says 205. So
yeah,
he's putting on.
it's going to vary. Yeah, you probably did put up weight. Probably you got the numbers from the combine. But, you know, of course, these light guys they spend a month drinking creatine for the combine, and the heavy guys spend a month fasting like
Yeah.
12 hours a day.
They're in the steam room.
Pounds, yeah. So, all right. Anything else? This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We love the draft. as we're getting closer. Any
Yeah,
surprise?
I got a question for you.
Go ahead
You
now.
know, none of us have brought up edge rusher because are we all assuming that Jermaine Johnson is going to return to form next year? I mean, I think that's kind of risky, actually.
It
Well,
is, especially coming off that. But he had a lot of he had a good long rehab. It wasn't like end of the year
Yeah,
things.
but I think the mental part is the big
Yes, that's
issue, and
the question.
and those guys are pushing so hard against the tackles. It took Carl Lawson a while to even become
I don't know that he ever got back.
I
yeah.
don't think he ever regained it.
Remember, we passed up on Trey Hendrickson.
Oh, we're gonna bring that. This is as bad as the Zach Wilson. We're gonna mention Trey Hendrickson
You
again.
know, it's funny you mentioned that, Ray, because I read this morning that now that Burrow said he's going to get involved in the
Yeah,
negotiations.
he wants him back, and I don't blame him.
Yeah, yeah, he does.
But
He's a solid player.
and
Yeah, go on.
no, I no, that's fine. I was just going to mention that
Because I was thinking if my tight end wasn't there, I could go with a tight end in the third round. One of Ray's favorites. I feel like he's going to be a hell of a player. Is Jack Sawyer.
yeah,
Oh yeah,
He's got the look of a guy who's just going to overachieve in the pros, and I wouldn't
the
mind
pass.
taking him in the second round because he'll be a
I,
second round pick.
I
Uh,
think he'll be an early second too. So
yeah.
we
So
might have a shot at him if he's there. Whew, I'd like that guy.
Ray. I want to ask you the wide receiver from Ohio State who's got a
Big,
tough.
Big Buka.
yeah.
Yeah. When
Funny
do you think
thing
he's
with
going
that
to
guy
go?
from
First
Arizona.
round, right?
Yeah,
Huh?
he seems to be projected in late first round by
He's
everyone.
projected almost even in every one of those guys you mentioned, Daniel Jerem or not mentioned, but sent the link for Kuiper, McShay. They either have them ranked right by each other or one's a pick or two or a
Yeah,
spot.
there's two guys from Texas, Golden and another wide receiver
Yeah.
who are all supposed to go late first round, I guess, early second.
Buchan. Who's the one from ASU? I don't know how you pronounce it.
Ted
No,
McMillan.
Well, that's
Yes,
from Arizona, not
yeah,
ASU.
he'll probably be the first one picked. I'm guessing he'll be anywhere from like 8 to
but
16,
they
something like that.
they literally rank them basically right by each other. And he gets a bit, overshadowed, not overshadowed, but lost in the fact that Ohio State's got, wide receivers galore. So when they talk about one, it's hard to
Well,
figure it out
but
too.
they know he's good though, because
No,
he is good.
I think he'd be a solid like teammate, locker room guy,
Right.
guy on the
And
field, hard worker.
it's another example of how teams are thinking, well, if he's an Ohio State receiver, they've been doing so well in the pros that,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
won't hesitate to take him.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm just going to go through before we close it out. And I think we did this. I just want to do it again. Some of the names of the free agents still available, not signed.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Tell me how you feel. Keep in mind, it gets to a point. I believe the late signings, a lot of times they wait till after the first game because then the contract's not guaranteed unless they change that. I'm not sure. But let me just go through some of the players. Ray, I have to mention Aaron Rodgers, your favorite. Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, still unsigned. Von Miller. Did Von Miller retire, Ralph? No.
I think so.
Did he?
I think he's still got some game left, actually.
Deontay Johnson, wide receiver, Baltimore. This is a name I liked like 6 years ago. Brandon Scherf, guard from
Yeah, he's had a
Jacksonville.
lot of injuries, I think.
A lot of injuries.
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett, wide receiver, Seattle.
Yeah, it's a lot of 31, 32-year-olds who are,
But here's a name. He's not that old, 28 and a half. Free safety, Marcus Williams from Baltimore.
Oh yeah, the Jets were actually trying to get him a few years ago from New Orleans when
Cincinnati?
he was on I think New Orleans and he was a free agent
Yes, that's
and he
it.
signed with Baltimore for good money and I don't know, I guess it wasn't such a big deal to miss him out on him, but
Yeah, here's one for you. He's almost 33. Outside linebacker, Matt Judon.
he can still play. I would take him. He probably wouldn't be that expensive, and I actually like the guy. He was a
Nope.
stand-up guy last year. He didn't pull the crap that Reddick pulled, and he could have. Uh,
Right.
yeah, he'd be
That might that might be a good insurance, for if
yeah.
DJ doesn't come back or isn't 100%.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised he's not even signed yet. Which is interesting. There's a tackle from the Rams, Joseph Noteboom. I don't even know who he is. He's like 30 though. Preston Smith, outside linebacker from Pittsburgh. He's not bad, but he's 32. Quarterback, I don't know, Philadelphia, James Bradbury. Remember, he was on the Giants. Um, Shaq Mason, a guard from Houston. Zadarius Smith, Ralph,
Yeah.
outside linebacker, Detroit. Isn't there a connection there with our new head coach?
Well, if he's not jumping on,
Yeah.
how old is he now?
He's 32 and a half.
Yeah, well, I know they're into a youth movement right now, so I don't think they're going to be looking at 30-year-olds unless they're absolutely desperate, someone gets hurt. That's the thing about waiting until the first week or the second week of the season, Marty, is there's going to be a lot of injuries in preseason. A lot of these guys will get
Right.
snapped up. Yeah.
A couple of more names. CJ Mosley, 33. Robert
I
Woods, wide receiver.
CJ Mosley,
I don't
holy
know.
cow.
And
Hey,
the last one
yeah,
I'll read, he's 34 and a half. Stephen Gilmore, Stephon Gilmore.
Stephon Gilmore. Wow, the
Still
cat
around.
came back. He's just
Hanging
always
in there.
yeah. I want to ask you guys something. What did you think of the idea of Cincinnati signing both of those receivers for huge money? I think they were crazy to do both of them.
That was that was unbelievable. But
I mean,
I understand why they're thinking they needed to do it, which is fine. But I think you're hoping that you don't have any injuries or anything where you need somebody, to sign somebody. You're going to be pretty.
to me, I would have signed Chase, but I think they can replace Higgins. There's always, like Marty says, so many receivers around.
Coming out of college,
Higgins
yeah.
is good, but it's just
I
too
mean, yeah,
expensive.
no, you're right. It's just, Ralph, and Ray, I think it becomes like an emotional game.
Yeah,
Like I'm in love with Garrett Wilson, but just like I say, and you just said, he's replaceable.
yeah.
There's always these guys coming out of college that, whatever. But
I'm
anyway,
wondering if it's the Aaron Rodgers effect where Burrow was like, I want him back, so they went to went
but
to
Ray, me,
Dream.
yeah. And meanwhile, they're negotiating with what's his name, Alan Lazard. I kind of thought they weren't.
Who's negotiating with the Jets?
Yes,
Oh God.
I kind of thought that they're just holding on, waiting for Rodgers to sign and trying to
Yeah.
get like a sixth or seventh round pick from Pittsburgh.
Maybe they are.
Well, they told Lazard to go out and find a trade, and
Yeah,
And here he is.
yeah. All
oh
right.
God, if he comes back, Marty,
Okay, so with that, as everyone is, look, I just want to warn people, do not look at your 401ks today. Let it go, and don't worry, things will get better for Ray Clifford and Ralph Schrager and Marty Schupak and Jets Rewind. Until next time.